What's good, 99 Dreamers? We back at it, episode 10 of the 99 Dream podcast. My name is Julian Taliaferro. You already know we coming again with another weekly business update, lessons for the week, and then topic for the day, which is use your experiences. And, I'm pretty excited about this episode because episode 10, we're 10 weeks into the process, 10 weeks into building something, with this 99 Dream community, with this podcast. And I'm just excited. Sometimes you have to set aside time to celebrate yourself, knowing that you've been consistent. So we've been consistent for 10 weeks, right? We're going to be consistent for 10 more weeks and more weeks and more weeks. And we're just going to continue on this journey. So, let's continue, and please just continue to rock with me, as we get better and better every episode, as we continue to build something, right? And as you guys can kind of see, it's a little bit different background from my usual setup. And this is because I'm back home for Thanksgiving break. So, you guys can see all my posters and stuff. But, happy Thanksgiving to everybody or anybody who's watching. Hope it's a great one. But now I can get to my quote for the week, which is, today did you give your best? And this is a quote from Tanisha Williams. It's kind of like a question, if anything. And Tanisha Williams is the keynote speaker from the event that I went to a couple weeks back. And she was the CEO, founder of Elite Realty, and this is like a realty company, and she had 400 million in sales last year, and she's only been open for like 4 years, and she has 200 realtors under her, and they're all minority realtors, which is even more amazing, right? So this is her quote: today did you give your best? And ever since I've heard this quote, it's really stuck in my head. So every time I go to bed, all I ask myself is, today did I give my best, right? Every time I lay my head on the pillow before I go to sleep, I start questioning myself, evaluating each day, evaluating my life, what I did that day, and asking myself, was it the best effort I could? And sometimes the answer is no. So what does that mean? That means that the next day I have to go a little bit harder. I gotta grind a little bit harder, cross things off my list, and be more effective, so I can lay my head down peacefully and go to sleep knowing that I gave my best that day. So that's the quote, today did you give your best, by Tanisha Williams. And then now I can get to my business update. So last week, my next steps were, for this episode, I should have narrowed down my product to, what I wanted to go forth with, and then start contacting my manufacturer. But this process is taking a lot longer than I expected. I didn't realize that product research is a skill. So I have to learn first the software, how to navigate that. And then from there, how do I choose the most optimal product? Is this product most optimal for my budget? How many daily sales do I want? How many monthly sales do I want? How much revenue am I really looking at that I want to achieve, in this part, in this process that I'm in? If it is my only initial product, it has to be within my budget. I'm only working with so much capital. As a college student, I don't have a job. So, it needs to be within a budget, and I initially didn't set a budget. So my whole viewpoint of the business has changed. When I initially thought of starting this e-commerce, I thought, private label, let me just see what's on Amazon. Let me grab a product that, only a few sellers have, put my label on it, sell it, from there make money. But that really is just an oversimplification. There are so many more caveats to the process, and as I learn more and more, I'm realizing this, and this is good. So now I just have to be more strategic. These learnings that I have to these e-commerce is going to be crucial in the basis to all my other future entrepreneurship endeavors, right? So now I'm going to have to start thinking about, my specific brand in my niche. What do I want that to look like? What am I actually going to improve about the product that I'm choosing on Amazon? There has to be an improvement. It has to be better than other listings, right? So how do I optimize that? What specific target market am I looking at? What is my unique seller proposition? And I'm also need like a marketing launch, right? A launch strategy, a marketing strategy for my product and for my brand. So these are things that now I have to put more time and research into, and it'll allow me to have a great brand at the end of the day, to where possibly I can sell off my brand to a buyer, right? So that's the plan. And part of this is because I am doing the private label route, where I create my own brand. If I did wholesale or arbitrage, it might look different, but there's caveats to everything, right? Every, whether it's wholesale, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, there are steps that you need to take. And for private label, these just happen to be the steps. So, I'm going to do those successfully. And it's kind of funny that, I kind of did that oversimplification. And I think it was just, a little bit of naiveness and me not being an entrepreneur. So you don't understand what everything goes into the process. But, I watch the Social Proof podcast all the time. And Donnie Wiggins always says, whenever you think it's a no-brainer, it's always a brainer, right? And this, this process of me trying to build up, a brand now, is definitely a brainer. I have to put, serious time and thought into my strategic plan, right? So that's definitely what I'm focusing on now. And also, the product research as well, but it's all hand in hand. And then now I can get into my lessons for the week. And I have 2 of them. And my first one is just that sometimes you need time to think. So my experience that led me to this lesson was on Thursday night. I have a long day on Thursday. I finished at like 8 p.m. So I finished class and I came back to my apartment and I realized that I wasn't really going to do any more work for the night. So I said, all right, let me just, settle down. Let me just go to bed. Let me go to sleep early so I can wake up and be refreshed for the next day. But, as I started laying down, I was trying to go to sleep. My mind was racing. I was just thinking of so many things, whether it's with my business, whether it's my personal life. And I just had all these thoughts. And I came to the realization that, when you're running and running, sometimes you don't have time to think because you're always on to the next task. You're always, on the next thing that you have to cross off your list. And then there, you don't have time to think, but sometimes you need to set aside time to think. But I will say it is necessary to be busy, to be running around. So when you do stop to have a time to think, it's something productive, right? It's about your business. It's about how do you optimize. It's about how do you change something about yourself. And it's of value reflection, right? So now, me looking back, I want to start having a weekly reflection just of my week. A weekly reflection of, myself as my mental state, right? A reflection of my business, a reflection of my dreams, my manifestations, and my future strategies. So start doing that, every week, and that'll be an added benefit because it keeps your mind clear and you're checking in with yourself, right? So you're knowing you're on track and you're knowing that you're in the right state to continue. And then my second lesson for the week is just that me personally, I don't know if anybody in the community is like this, but I need to write out my thoughts. So everything that I do, I need to write it down. I need to have the thought in my head and then write it down to something physical. And then from there, when it's physical, it becomes real. And once it becomes real, that's like of the utmost, because when I write down my dreams, it becomes physical and I know it's going to be real and I know it's going to happen. When I write out something like a task I need to do on my business, first it relieves my mind, but from there it's like, okay, now I definitely need to do this, because it's not just in my thoughts, but it's written down on my list and it becomes physical, it becomes real. So that's just kind of like a lesson for me. And then if anybody else, just write your things down, write them out, get them out of your mind, get them on paper, make them real, make them physical, and from there you can attack it. And then those are my lessons for the week. Sometimes you need time to think, and then write out your thoughts. And now we can kind of get into the topic for the day, which is use your experiences. And I think I got this realization that same time I was reflecting, that Thursday night, and I just started reflecting about my life, in conversations I had or situations I was in. And I realized that I could take takeaways from everything I do, right? A lot of times we move through life and we just live. We just go from one thing to the next, one event to the next, and we don't critically analyze what happened. We don't analyze what could have been done better. We just live. But if you analyze what happened, you could take a takeaway from that and then change your behavior, right? And implement it to become a better version of yourself, implement it to create a better result, to become more successful. So for me, I only really thought of taking or getting a takeaway from like an internship, every time I have an internship, I would have like a presentation at the end of my 2-3 months, and they would ask me, what are your takeaways from your time here? Right. So that's the only time I've really thought critically about my experiences. But that Thursday I was thinking, what did I take a takeaway from? So when I went to the Miami Tech networking night on Wednesday, I was talking to this person, and he did NFTs, and he did individualized NFTs for athletes, like high school athletes, where it would have like a senior photo, and then it would have like a highlight reel, right? But it could be for anybody, whether it's a high school athlete or even me. If I wanted my own personalized NFT for like an athletic or something that I was doing, then he would be the guy for me to go to. So that made me then think, how do I implement this into my own business, right? How do I implement NFTs, right? Which I was familiar with, but this conversation has pushed it further. So is there a possibility of me implementing NFTs to my comics, right? Can I do individualized comics? What does that look like? Is that a process that I could do, right? Is that something that I could move forth with? So thinking critically like that. Another one is just, even on the plane when I was coming home, instead of just being a customer on the plane, or just instead of just riding on the plane, I started thinking critically, how could I improve my process? I saw some things where possibly product ideas that I could start, or systems that could be put in place to optimize, the plane experience, right? So how do we do that? And thinking critically about everything you're in, taking a takeaway from a conversation that you had with a friend or a family member. What work do you need to do internally? After this conversation, do you realize that you need to be more patient? Is that something that you realize? Is that something you need to work on? Do you need to be give more grace, right? Is that something you need to work on? Do you need to work on, anger? I'm just throwing things out there, but what do you take away from your life? What do you take away from your experiences? Be critical, right? And analyze, get the takeaway, implement it, and make a change, right? Make the change so you're not just saying the same person you are, you grow. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? So grow, develop, and that way you'll become more and more successful. And that's kind of my topic. Just use your experiences, right, in all aspects. And then now I want to get into my next steps for my business, and the majority really is just on e-commerce, right? So continue to do my product research, but strategize. I need to strategize and strategize. How do I really want my brand to look like? How do I start this marketing plan? How do I set up funnels? How do I build out a website? How do I find a unique seller proposition? What do I want to optimize? How do I grow the brand once I have it? So all these things just need to be in my head. Whether I need to implement it now or in the future, I need to have that consistent thought process. And so nothing really takes me by storm. Or if it does, I'm ready for it, right? Because, hurdles are going to happen, and it's not whether you get a hurdle, it's how you react to the hurdle, right? It's how you get up once you fell down. So that's my next steps, to strategize and continue my product research. I know that I'm going to have to set a deadline, because I don't want this process to take necessarily too long. So I do want to at some point set a deadline, but I'm just going to be moving as fast as I can, just put in the hours and the time to where I'll have a strategy. And that's how we're looking moving forward. So all right, let's get it, y'all. Go and achieve your 99 dream. And it's 99 dream because you are going to achieve your dream, and it would be 100%, but nobody's perfect, so you're going to achieve 99% of that. So let's go and let's get it. See y'all next week.